Have you ever watched someone transform after tasting power? A friend who changed, a colleague who grew cold, or perhaps something shifted within yourself? A warmth that hardened into stone. Tonight, we explore the hidden mechanics of how power warps the human spirit, Nietzsche's harshest lesson for those brave enough to face it. By the end, you'll recognize the corruption before it takes root in your own heart. Comment below with "Power Revealed" if you've witnessed someone change after gaining authority. I read every comment, every story of metamorphosis. Your experience matters more than you know. We are drawn to power like moths to flame, believing ourselves different, immune to its corrosive touch. We watch politicians fall, celebrities crumble, leaders become tyrants, and whisper, "Not me! Never me!" This is the first and deadliest illusion. The belief in our exceptional nature. That somehow our souls alone possess the fortitude to resist what has claimed every empire, every kingdom, every human institution throughout history. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this clearly. Power corrupts the few, while weakness corrupts the many. His words cut through our comfortable myths, exposing a truth we spend our lives avoiding. None of us are exempt. The will to power drives all living things. It pulses beneath our noblest intentions, our greatest loves, our deepest connections. This force, this hunger to expand, to influence, to shape reality, defines us. Yet when satisfied, it transforms us. Sometimes slowly, invisibly, like water shaping stone over centuries. Other times violently, instantly, like lightning splitting an ancient tree down to its roots. The face in your mirror changes. The voice in your head shifts. And something essential, something you once treasured about yourself, dissolves into the shadows. This is Nietzsche's warning, whispered across time. But what exactly happens? What are the mechanisms through which power rewires the human mind? Let us walk through the 7 doorways of corruption, each one opening to the next. The first doorway, detachment from consequence. When your decisions affect others, but not yourself, empathy withers like unwatered flowers. The powerful no longer feel the thorns of their actions. Watch how a new manager speaks differently about workplace policies that once frustrated them. Listen as they explain necessary changes, with the calm detachment of someone who will never feel their impact. This distance creates an invisible wound, a separation from the very humanity that once defined you. The powerful begin living in a different reality, breathing different air, seeing different horizons. In your own life, notice when you become insulated from the effects of your choices. This is the first warning sign, the moment when power begins its quiet work within you. The second doorway, the intoxication of compliance. There is something unnervingly addictive about watching others conform to your will. Even in small matters, this drug enters the bloodstream. See how people nod when you speak. Watch how they adjust their opinions to align with yours. Feel the subtle rush when a room falls silent at your entrance. Nietzsche understood this pleasure as dangerous precisely because it feels deserved, even righteous. "I must be correct," whispers the mind. "For why else would they follow?" This is where corruption deepens. The powerful begin to equate agreement with truth, silence with consent, compliance with rightness. And slowly, the capacity for genuine self-criticism erodes. Have you tasted this? The moment when disagreement feels like betrayal? When questioning voices sound like enemies? This is the second sign, when you begin to expect the bending of others. The third doorway, moral licensing. As influence grows, so does a peculiar accounting system in the mind. Good deeds become currency, purchasing freedom to act with less restraint. "I've earned this exception," the powerful think. "My contributions balance my indulgences." The rules that govern others seem suddenly small, provincial, meant for those who haven't proven their worth. This is why power often leads to surprising contradictions. the environmental activist with private jets, the equality advocate with exploited staff, the integrity preacher with secret vices. Each compromise feels justified by prior virtue. Each exception feels earned through service. The powerful rarely see themselves as hypocrites, merely as complex beings balancing complex ledgers. Watch for this in yourself. When do you grant yourself exemptions? When do you whisper, "Just this once," or "No one will know"? This is the third sign, the moment principles become flexible. The fourth doorway, reality distortion. Perhaps the most insidious effect of power is how it warps the information landscape around you. Truth itself begins to bend toward your gravity. People stop bringing bad news. They filter reality, presenting versions designed to please rather than inform. They anticipate your preferences, your biases, your desires, and shape their words accordingly. Slowly, inevitably, you begin living in a curated world, one constructed to maintain your comfort rather than challenge your understanding. This is the birth of delusion, dressed as loyalty. Marcus Aurelius understood this danger when he wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I shall be glad to change." Power makes such proof increasingly rare. Notice when criticism stops reaching you. Pay attention when you hear only echoes of your own thoughts. This is the fourth sign, when reality itself seems to validate you completely. The fifth doorway, the elevation of efficiency over empathy. With power comes responsibility, pressure demands. Decisions that once seemed simple now carry weight, affecting many lives beyond your own. Under this pressure, the powerful often shift their values. Efficiency becomes paramount. Measurable outcomes trump immeasurable human concerns. Speed overrules deliberation. Numbers replace stories. This shift feels necessary, even virtuous. Hard choices must be made, they say. We cannot afford sentimentality. The language of necessity replaces the language of compassion. Yet something vital is lost in this transition. The messy, inefficient reality of human experience gets squeezed out of the equation. People become variables, communities become statistics. Watch for moments when you begin valuing systems over souls. When protocols feel more important than people. This is the fifth sign, when efficiency becomes your highest value. The sixth doorway, the weaponization of identity. As corruption deepens, the powerful develop a dangerous relationship with criticism. Rather than engaging with it, they begin to deflect it entirely. Any questioning becomes an attack not on their ideas or actions, but on their essential self, their mission, their vision, their special understanding. The critic becomes not just wrong, but an enemy. They don't understand what we're building here, becomes the reflexive response. They resist because they fear change. They attack me because they cannot comprehend my purpose. This fusion of ego and mission creates a terrible immunity to correction. The powerful no longer see themselves as fallible humans serving something greater, but as the embodiment of greatness itself. Notice when you begin equating criticism of your decisions with attacks on your worth. This is the sixth sign, when you can no longer separate your identity from your power. The seventh doorway, the loneliness of unreality. In the final stage of corruption, power creates a profound isolation. Not physical solitude, but an existential separation from authentic human connection. The powerful become surrounded yet alone, attended to but untouched, heard but not listened to. Their world fills with transactions disguised as relationships, calculations masked as care. Nietzsche saw this clearly. Madness is rare in individuals, but in groups, parties, nations, and ages it is the rule. The powerful often live entirely within such madness, with no one to break its spell. This is perhaps power's cruelest trick. It promises connection, influence, impact. Yet it ultimately severs the authentic bonds that give life meaning. The powerful often die surrounded yet deeply alone. Watch for the moment when you begin doubting the authenticity of those around you. When you wonder if anyone sees you clearly anymore. This is the seventh sign, the final stage of corruption. But what happens when we recognize these patterns in ourselves? When we catch power's corruption in its early stages? Here, Nietzsche offers not just diagnosis but possibility. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. This struggle is our salvation, the conscious resistance against power's gravitational pull. There exists a rare form of power, what the ancients called sovereignty, that resists corruption precisely because it remains conscious of its dangers. This is power held with humility, with awareness. Those who wield such power create deliberate counterforces in their lives. They surround themselves with truth-tellers, not flatterers. They expose themselves regularly to different realities, different perspectives. They practice what philosopher Simone Weil called attention, the rare capacity to see others fully, to listen without the filter of self-interest, to remain permeable to the world as it is. They establish rituals of remembrance, practices that reconnect them with their pre-power selves. They deliberately recall their origins, their struggles, their moments of vulnerability. Perhaps most importantly, they never fully identify with their power. They understand it as temporary, conditional, borrowed. They see themselves as stewards rather than owners of influence. If this journey resonates with you, if you recognize these doorways in your own experience, I invite you to join our exploration. Subscribe to continue walking this path of self-awareness together. In the quiet moments, when you're alone with your thoughts, ask yourself, which doorway am I approaching? What subtle changes has power already worked within me? What still remains uncorrupted? Power itself is neither good nor evil. It simply is, a force like gravity, like time. What matters is our relationship to it, our awareness of its effects, our willingness to see ourselves clearly. Perhaps Nietzsche's harshest lesson is ultimately his most hopeful. By understanding power's corruption, we gain the possibility of wielding it differently, with consciousness, with care, with humility. The face in your mirror can remain recognizable. The voice in your head can stay true. Something essential about you can be preserved, even as you grow in influence and responsibility. But this preservation requires constant vigilance, a commitment to seeing yourself as you truly are, not as power would have you become. This is the hardest work any human can undertake. And yet, it may be the most important. For in a world shaped by the corrupted powerful, those who resist corruption become something extraordinary, not just leaders, but guides. Not just influential, but wise. The choice remains yours, as it has always been. To drift unconsciously through power's doorways, or to walk through them with eyes wide open, aware of the dangers, committed to a different path. Which will you choose?